with your mission message of the moment. And this is one that I've been allowing to flow in more like a creek than a waterfall because it's really juicy. And I wanted to make sure that I heard the messages, I suppose you could say, with my 5D ears instead of my 3D ears. And that's kind of where the message has simmered, is that the message is start seeing, start looking with your 5D eyes. Like, and it's one of those, like, we may look at, oh, how do I say it? Let me backtrack a little bit. There are many, many things going on in the universe, in your life, in your universe, in the universes of everybody around you. And most of them throughout your life, you've navigated through intuition and, well, like ego intuition with 3D eyes. Now it is time to start navigating it with your intuition with 5D eyes. And part of that, the biggest thing of it, is that you have to really trust yourself. Like, if you're feeling called to this message and you feel like you can hear it and it feels good to take it in, then you're likely in a place on your journey where you've been put through your paces. You've been put through the boot camp, for lack of a better way to put it, on how to discern the difference between your intuition, your instincts, your ego, your fears, all that stuff. You've gone through all these different phases to show you how to hear your intuition and how to at least hear it enough to trust that you can hear it there. Though there are a lot of folks that are kind of where they've been holding on to old cycles of, and it's all because there's this lack of trust in there, trust of your own intuition. Because here's the thing, like, there are many, like, big and small, like, 5D battle type things that might go on, and they might even spill over into the 3D where people are making drama and chaos and things like that. You've got to be able to navigate those situations with your intuition. And if you don't trust your own intuition without any confirmation from anybody else or needing to ask for a whole bunch of signs and sinks, you're going to have trouble navigating anything that comes forward. It's just going to throw you back into old cycles, old responses, old fear responses. And I've been trying to think about, like, how do you put things into words that help come through so that everybody can find their way onto their own paths and figure out what this means for them. Now, for me, like, seeing with 5D eyes is like, okay, there's a recent experience that I had. I went out and made some new friends and some new places, some old places. And I noticed, like, a consistent pattern. There's usually at least one person within the group who's, like, not super mature. And they can, sometimes they're the person that's like, sometimes it's the player, sometimes it's the bully, sometimes it's the overly catty guy or gal. So, like, there's different people in there. And, like, each one of them usually has conversations about the other ones. And they're all kind of looking at the 3D aspects of things and, like, sizing up different situations, like, could they be a good friend? Could they be a good partner? Should I talk to them or not talk to them? Like, these are all very 3D things. It's not that they're bad things. They're actually quite common things, but they're 3D things, if you catch my drift. Like, it's like, look, it's like to judge a book by its cover sort of thing, although maybe you read the inside sleeve in the back. Like, you got a little bit of information about it, or maybe you even have a lot. You could even read the book, and, like, one person reading that book could say, "Oh, it was awful, and I wish the author would have used a different sort of syntax," whereas somebody else might say, "Oh, I thought it was great." Like, the perspective is different. So, like, you're going to have some people in the spaces in their 3D space where they're really liking certain characteristics in certain people that others do not like in them. And it's all like, but it's all very 3D. It's all like, what can this person do for me? Or what can I do for them? Or do I like them? Do I not like them? It's all, it's all very human stuff. But, like, to see with your 5D eyes is to be kind of in a, well, first it's a state of openness. Like, you might come across somebody that reminds you of people in the past who hurt you or that you didn't like. And if you're looking with 3D eyes, you might be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to run. I'm going to run away from that situation right now, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. But when you stop first and pause and look with your 5D eyes, it may be that there is an opportunity that you could either see something about yourself or that there's a moment that you could do some light work just in being yourself by not running from the situation, especially if it's not one where you're like bound by any sort of social obligations or anything like that. And there are so many opportunities in life, both for your light work and also just for manifesting the life that you want, that could be missed because a trigger is felt and we run because we're looking with 3D eyes. We're looking with ego eyes. We're like, oh, this feels good or not feels good, run. Which, I'm not, like I said, that's not a bad thing to do. Though the mission, should you choose to accept it, is to look at things from 5D eyes. What is it about the situation that you feel discomfort with that maybe you could see in another way? Or if somebody's pulling you into an argument, or they're not talking to you because they're saying it's going to be an argument, or any of that stuff, is there another way you could look at it with 5D eyes? Is there maybe something about this small interaction that, if you allow yourself to look at it with 5D eyes, is there something different you could say that is more connected with spirit and source, which they always love everybody. Like spirit doesn't have feelings the way that we have feelings. Like it loves all experiences. There are no good or bad experiences. They're all just different learning lessons and different things to go through. That's why everybody's experiences are different. Like we might have similar ones. We might categorize different people's experiences as the same or alike as others, which was also a 3D thing to do. Though no two stories are exactly alike, no matter how alike they are. They're not, they're always different for that reason. And when we look through 5D eyes, through that reference, that frame of reference, and we're like, okay, what is the experience that this person is trying to have? And what is the experience that I am trying to have? And how are they alike? And how are they different? And it may be that like you went out to be social and so did the other person, but you're going, if you're going out from a more of a 5D energy and you're like, I'm going out because it feels like fun and I like to take myself out for fun, just like I like that other people take me out for fun. And I'm out because I'm curious what synchronicities I might see and what kind of people I might meet. Like you're kind of going out from a place of openness and self-love, like let's see what goes on, and like it's healthy to take yourself out. The other person may be doing the same thing, but maybe they're coming from a space of depression, and oftentimes what comes along with depression and the other side of that is anger. And when people when people go from being depressed and then go, I'm going to take myself out, they go to the next vibration up into anger, and then they can be a bit standoffish or a bit of a jerk or a bit of a bully. And it may very simply be that that's been their pattern for a while, and they tend to repel people in that anger energy and then go back to the depression energy because nobody in that situation is looking at things from 5D eyes. They're all just kind of going off of natural, instinctual 3D responses. Whereas you never know what deciding to stay for 5 minutes and having that conversation could change. Like there's so many different things. Like think about how many chance encounters had to happen for you to be born. Like if you think back through hundreds and hundreds of ancestors that you could even get reference to, it took an awful lot of quote coincidental experiences for you to be here right now. So you don't know what a 5 minute conversation with somebody might do, especially if you approach it from a 5D space and a light work space, that when you feel some amount of trigger, you don't run. You sit and you think about it and you check in with your source self, your inner being, and you say, okay, if I'm looking at this from eyes of unconditional love for myself and for all people, what am I looking at now? Am I looking at somebody who's unsure how to navigate social waters? So maybe they are being a bit too much, and that's probably what they think of themselves. So maybe I could say something to them that's, in a quieter moment when they're not being bullyish or they're not being arrogant or they're not like running around doing everything. And in that calm moment when they are like chillaxing, I could say to them, I really love your energy right now, how you're being. Because what you want to bet they probably don't get a lot of genuine compliments, and least of all like that. It's going to stick out. They're probably going to take that compliment and really think about it. They're going to think about what were they doing in that moment, because that's what humans naturally do, and it's also a natural 3D response before you're conscious of it. Even when you're conscious of it, it can happen. But like they could be, they might think about that and be like, you know what? I was just sitting there and just being me. Like I wasn't yelling, I wasn't being boisterous, I wasn't bullying anyone, I wasn't doing any of that, and they really liked my energy then. Huh. Okay. All right, maybe I'll try that again. And it's also a counter to anyone who might have said, you're really loud, or you talk too much, or you do this and that. And like, even if that feedback is true, who can take it in that way? It just hurts. Whereas you're lifting someone up in those moments. You might have other moments with awkwardness. Maybe you've got um, either a partner or somebody who wants to be your partner or something else like that, and their energy is like overly persistent, like they're busting boundaries. And you might, in a 3D way just be like cut them off or stop talking or ghost or tell them I don't like this, or you're being this way, or this and that. You communicate it to them. And let's say that they still don't get it, right? And if they don't, you could stop in that moment and look at it with 5D eyes, with source eyes, and say, like what would it take to take, like, if you take a baby and you know that a baby in general, there's, let's say a baby for all intents and purposes has no karma. Like it's an innocent being. And what would it take to turn that innocent being into this person right now who doesn't understand the social cues and doesn't understand the boundaries? Or maybe they understand the boundaries, but they're not listening to them. If I look at it from 5D eyes, from unconditional love for everyone, including myself, then I could see that maybe they've been through a lot of situations where the opposite sex has been very confusing. They've said a lot of things and meant something else, or they've all played hard to get, or things like that. And could probably from somebody that also feels like they either never get it right or always screw it up or always want what they can't have, or things like that. And like that creates somebody who does that. It's not usually somebody who's just stupid or somebody who like doesn't want to have healthier boundaries with everyone. They're anxious, and this is the way that their coping mechanisms have brought them into it. Does that mean that you need to rescue them, save them? No, it doesn't. Though you can make those ripple effects in the rest of the collective consciousness simply by changing your thinking about it. Like, even if you do decide to say, I'm going to go ahead and cut them off, you've created changes in the universe by changing your inner universe. And the more often you do that, the more often you see those changes become more consistent, because, it is a reality that there are a lot of people who say one thing and do another. And there's far more people who have really crappy boundaries than there are people who have healthy boundaries that don't hurt when you butt up against them, ones that are firm but not sharp, you know. And these are some of the things that we're being called to help change. I mean, sometimes the most heroic thing is not riding in on a horse with a sword like the Knight of Swords. Sometimes it's the Page of Pentacles, where you simply plant a seed. You just plant a seed. It seems like a small thing, but think about how many rainforests have been brought back from literal decimation because somebody decided to plant seeds and to care for it and to tend them. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. Thank you for those of you who decided to listen. Please feel free to comment below and share, I don't know, your journey with us if you feel like it.